Today on Locked On Red Wings, announcing the winner of the Rasmussen Stick Sweepstakes and beginning our midseason evaluations.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code Locked On NHL to get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Scotty, we got a lot to get to in this episode. We are going to first and foremost begin our player evaluations. We changed up. We normally do player grades. We're going to change up how we do it a little bit because grading players is just so subjective and there's not a lot of weight behind it. Not that there's going to be that much more weight behind it now when we do it because it's still subjective, but hopefully a little bit simpler will make it sound a little bit more effective, I think is what we're shooting for.
Sure.
So, first and foremost, though, Scotty, happy Monday. We're back again. Another 5 days, All-Star week off. So it's we're gonna fill some time here.
Yeah, I'm. This week is actually my first week back to 5 on Tigers as well. So baseball season looming. So kind of gonna be a fun week.
Well, over here at Red Wings, we're gonna be doing. Well, we're going to be doing them until we're done with them, the midseason evaluations. Yeah. Before we can do that, we got a couple of things to get out of the way. First, we have to announce the winner of our game-used Rasmussen Stick Sweepstakes. We got 234 responses to the Google form. So that's a lot of entrants. And we did get our winner. So we're going to announce that now for you guys instead of making you hang on until the end. So the winner of our Rasmussen Stick Sweepstakes is at Tim Cornthwaite. So that's at TIMCORNTHWAITE 8039. We are going to send you an email per the email you gave us on the form and let you know that you won so we can figure out how to send this to you. Thank you to everyone who participated. Unfortunately, only one stick, so we can only give it to one person in the end. But
yeah, we have giveaways relatively often though.
Yeah, every few months it seems like we're able to get one. Yeah. So keep your eyes and ears out.
Yeah.
The other thing before we can get into the midseason evaluations is, and this is our All-Star break conversation, right? Because I mean, this is a personal thing, and I'm sorry if some of you guys really love the All-Star game. I don't care about it personally. I think it's a big, pony show. Oh boy. But there were a couple things we can touch on. I think the biggest thing, Scotty, Cat got snubbed as All-Star MVP, and that is when you understand why Matthews got the MVP, it makes sense given the media market, but he just got snubbed hardcore. He carried that team.
Yeah, what do you have, like 6 points?
3 goals, 3 assists, and a shootout winner. And they gave it to Matthews, who had 1 less goal and 1 less assist. But it was in Toronto, so they had to give it to the I won't say hometown guy because he's from Arizona, but like the hometown.
No, but yeah, you're obviously, yeah. Big time snub. We don't have to go down the like meaning of the All-Star game rabbit hole, but because I think it is. Yeah, I don't think it's like 4th of 4 in the 4 main American sports. I think football is pretty comfortably there, but certainly not one of the top ones either.
Yeah, and I mean, like the skills competition had its really cool moments. I loved Nikita Kucherov just not giving a crap. Like I both loved and hated it. Like the fans paid,
which I thought was funny.
I mean, deservedly so, right? Like, I understand the fans' perspective, like they paid to be there, but I also understand a player like Nikita Kucherov being like, I can't say no or I get suspended for a game. So I'm just gonna he quiet quit. He quiet quit the All-Star game skills competition.
The best part was Michael Bublé. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Michael Bublé was the most, because, you know, these players are taught to be just like cardboard when it comes to interviews. Bublé was the opposite of that. He was fun.
Well, He had some help.
Yeah, he definitely had some help. But I mean, like that's it. That's the All-Star game. That's your All-Star game recap, because there's nothing of substance. Nothing matters when it comes to the All-Star game. So
yeah.
without further ado, you want to get into midseason evaluations? We
Let's
got 23 players to do, so it's probably going to be a multi-part episode. So let's get up. Let me first change our background here, and we can get into, we are doing a little bit different this time around. So what we are doing, instead of doing grades, instead of doing grades, we were doing kind of like, are they meeting expectations halfway through the season? And it's still pretty subjective, but the problem with grades was that the grades were different for every player. Like a Christian Fisher A is not the same as a Dylan Larkin A. So I think that doing meeting expectations and below expectations is a easier way to filter players by, where we feel they are at given what they are expected to do. And Scotty, is there any particular way you want to attack this, or should we just go left to right in the rows?
We can literally, let's just go down the line, man. And we can, and like you said, I mean, it's probably going to take us a couple episodes to get through everybody, but I think we just go down the line. That way we're kind of mixing in, all positional groups in the same, conversation as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one on this list here is Patrick Kane. Obviously has played 19 games, joined this season in November. He has 7 goals in those 19 games as well. Played great when he did play, got hurt, and is expected to return. But we don't count injuries towards our evaluation of a player because you can't control injuries. So we're talking strictly when this player is on the ice. Are they failing, meeting, exceeding? Scotty, I'm going to let you go first. What do you feel Patrick Kane is doing expectations-wise?
Yeah, the only debate for me here is which of the top 2 does he fall into? I mean, especially our takes stay public, baby, right? Like we don't have the luxury of hiding behind or like trying to pretend like we said something different. I mean, when he was out on the market, both of us had serious hesitations. Then you even came around before I did. So maybe this is more of a like everybody else was like, no, he's going to be good. And it's just an exceeding expectations. But for me personally, at least, I mean, there's a heavy debate here that he should be in the very top, above and beyond expectations, our highest ranking here.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at with Patrick Kane halfway through the Red Wings season here. He's above and beyond. And it comes back to what our expectations for him was. I mean, our expectations were if he plays on the ice and he can be, half of what he has been in his prime, he'll be a benefit. But at worst case, he doesn't play because he's too hurt to play, and it doesn't really hurt you at all.
Yeah.
He has been, when he was healthy, at least before this injury against Toronto in mid-January, he was the best player on the ice almost every single shift he was out there.
Yeah.
And granted, sample size is a big part of this, but expected goals for percentage-wise, he leads the team and it's not because of his defense. It's because he possesses the puck so well that when he's out there, they're in the offensive zone more often than not. This is a team that struggles to generate offense and consistent offense. Let me rephrase that. They struggle to generate consistent offensive zone pressure. They score a lot of goals, but it's off of rushes and power plays. When Patrick Kane's on the ice, they get sustained offensive zone pressure. So for me, I'm with you, Scotty. He is above and beyond expectations for us right now.
Yeah, I like I said, the only debate was really if he was going to be above and beyond or just quote unquote exceeding, and I'm totally cool with him being in the top 1.
Absolutely. And so from there, we move from left to right. That's, I believe, Jake Wollman is up next. You're also going to see how hard it is for me to remember faces. I'm terrible with faces. So unless there's a number on their back, man, I struggle sometimes. But yeah, that's Jake Wollman, I believe, up next. And this is a guy, Scotty, coming into the year. What were our expectations of him? Top pair D-man with an offensive. He's got a little bit of an offensive edge to him as well. But he and Seider played so well together. Like this was our bona fide number 1 pair. But there's been a lot of talk this year about where they rank in like the advanced analytics. Obviously, we have fought back against it. It's going to be interesting. I don't think he's below expectations with me. I don't. For me, it's a battle between meeting and exceeding expectations.
Same. Yeah, I was that was gonna be my lead as well, it was between those two. I'm pretty fine with putting him at meeting. I don't and again, like meeting expectations when your expectations are high is like good. Like
Yeah.
I feel like when we've done this in the past, there's almost been sometimes like a negative connotation towards meeting expectations. Like that's good. That's fine. Like that Jake Wallman's expectations were top pair defenseman. If he's meeting those, then he's playing like a top pair defenseman. So like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And he's obviously one of the more valuable pieces on this team, especially when the Wings are in the offensive zone. So yeah, I'm totally fine with meeting expectations if you are.
Yeah, and the reason why I almost want to put him in exceeding too is because of the fact that despite all the defensive zone starts and all the tough competition they're facing, he also does have a new career high in goals with still 30 games left to play in the season. And I know he joined partway through the season last year. He didn't play a full 82 because of the surgery that he had in the offseason. But like he's still improving his offensive zone production while also getting nothing but like defensive zone starts against the hardest competition. So that's why I'm kind of like, I know the advanced analytics don't love Jake Wallman, but I mean, he and Seider are the best defensemen on the ice every single night. So I don't know where you said meeting expectations.
Yeah. For again, and like I don't have nothing against slightly exceeding either, but it would be small enough exceeding where like I'd be fine with either of them.
Yeah, we're gonna put him in meeting expectations, and that's a good thing because expectations were high for him.
Right. Again, yeah, meeting expectations when our expectations were play like a top pair defenseman is a great thing.
So next up, that's Joe Veleno. Now this is a guy. This is a guy.
All right, Chris Collinsworth. Yeah.
I have thoughts on Joe Veleno, but we're gonna hold on to that because we got to take a quick break. So stay tuned for Joe Veleno in segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about Sleeper. It's past the halfway point in the NHL season, and the Red Wings are comfortably in a wild card spot with a 6-point lead. But don't take it for granted. Teams behind you, they got games in hand. So regardless of where they are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, Joe Veleno will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Red Wings fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks and start winning big. Use promo code LOCKDOWNNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Now we are grading Joe Veleno, a guy who I think our expectations for were pretty low coming into the season. So I think this is a guy that we thought might end up being the extra guy for the Red Wings this season, especially after he took a pay cut in the offseason as an RFA, lot to prove, didn't take that step forward last year. We were hoping played pretty well.
Yeah, this is I think the easiest one so far. I think this is like just a slam dunk exceeding expectations. It's not, like the most above and beyond. Like he's not playing himself into a conversation where we're like, oh, like Veleno top 6, but like he is very, very comfortably exceeded what at least me personally, and I know us as a show, had laid out for him going into this year. I think this is on 100% exceeding expectations, and there's not too much else to say.
Yep, I'm 100% with you. I mean, this is a guy who has worked his way on to power play times. He's playing on power play 2 at times. When
he's become a legitimate asset, and not just like, where do we put him?
Yeah, this is a guy
that you're looking for time on the ice for now.
When Larkin and Comfer were injured, he was the go-to guy to center between DeBrincat and Kane when Kane first started playing. Like, this is a guy who has played really good hockey this season, and he's found a really good role on the fourth line. And the fourth line's playing well. So, yeah, this is an easy, like you said, slam dunk, exceeding expectations for Joe Veleno. I think he's already tied his career high in points this season. He's got 20 points already on the year, and that was all he had last year for a career high. So, yeah, I mean, without a doubt, this is the easiest slam dunk that there is. Anyways, moving on from there, we got Daniel Sprong. Scotty, I'm gonna let you set this one up because I know you love Sprong.
Yeah, man. I think I'm leaning toward just going exceeding expectations, but there is a part of me that's going like trying to, just because I love him so much, like play the mental gymnastics game to convince everyone that he should be an above and beyond. He's fourth on the team in points. Like the entire team, he is fourth on the team in points. 13 goals, is fourth on the team. We're at the All-Star break and he's closing in on a 15 and 20, right? Like goal and assist numbers. He's been fantastic. He's one of the best bottom 6 point producers in the entire conference. I think that's pretty safe to say at this point. Entire NHL is something that we've talked about before as well. And as long as, we're not in a position where he has to play up he has to play higher than his like given role. And we're, as long as we're not in a position where Sprong has to be a top line winger or anything, like he's going to continue to excel and be a point producer. And it comes with its nebs and flows and hot streaks and cold streaks because he is a shooter. But even then, like he kind of tamed, got a little tamed in the shooting department and kind of riled in, and people were like, you got to, go back to shooting a lot more. And he made a joke about how he saw people complaining about it on Twitter. So like it's, for me, I think I'll default to just exceeding, but I would have no issue with above and beyond either. He's in the top 4 of the entire team in points, and you signed him with the expectation that he was going to be a bottom 6 guy.
Yeah, so last year he set a career high in points in 66 games with Seattle, 46 points, 21 goals. The first time he'd ever broken 21 goals, playing in a very similar role. In 50 games now, he's got 32 points, 13 goals, 19 assists. I mean, he will break his career high in points.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, he will not only break it, he'll comfortably.
Yeah, and part of that is because he's going to have he's played every single game so far this season. He's going to have an extra 15 games that he didn't have with Seattle last year. But I was as much as I loved the signing for the role that he was going to be playing with this team, and he's excelled at that role. Part of me was like a little bit like, okay, well, Kopp had a career year, you signed him, and he didn't have the same year. So you're whenever you sign a guy off a career year, you're a little nervous, about whether or not they can replicate that. And he has replicated that success. So, I mean, for me, I think it's a slam dunk exceeding expectations. Sure. And like, I won't fight you on above and beyond expectations, because I think we know that's things like we criticize his defense, right? Defense is, he'll have like one bad turnover a game, but that's also Daniel Sprong. That's part of what you're getting in Daniel Sprong. Like, we're not going to give Cat failing expectations because he is bad defensively. Like, that's just part of the game that which is why we're grading these players or evaluating these players this way, rather than giving them player grades, because each individual player has their own set of expectations from us. So, and it's all very subjective in the end. Scotty, if you want him in above and beyond, I'm not going to fight you, but I'm
okay with exceeding. I'm fine with
that. Big one coming up. I feel like we should save Moritz Seider until after the break here.
Sure.
So let's just go to a quick break and we'll talk about Seider in segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to all who celebrate. Just a little less than a week away now. And FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment 3, Locked on Red Wings podcast. We're going to evaluate I keep wanting to default to saying grade. Evaluate Moritz Seider and our expectations, based on our expectations of him in this season. I mean, I'm not going to get up on my soapbox and tell you everything about Moritz Seider that I've already told you. I mean, the two TLDR of it is he is getting the toughest assignments of any defenseman in the league at 22 years old. And he's playing really well despite that. Every single time you watch him on the ice, he is the best defenseman, sometimes just flat out the best player out there. For me, I mean, we talk about expectations, right? Our expectation was he was going to be the top pair D-man again, and he has been the number one D-man. But just given the assignments he's been giving, I find it hard not to give him personally and exceeding expectations because of what he's doing, while on pace to at least tie his career high in points. He set his rookie season of 50. So he's doing it on both sides of the puck.
Yeah. No, I know that again, there was a lot of conversations about him and Wallman and their pairing and the production and whatnot. I'm pretty content with either meeting or exceeding for Seider as well. This has been a solid season. We've obviously come to his defense quite a lot throughout this year, with people saying that I think the word was regression was used a lot by some other fan bases, which I think we both think is absurd. And yeah, man, especially, and I don't want to let recency bias take too much, but especially in the month of January, he was fantastic. So I'm pretty okay with exceeding or meeting whichever one you're kind of more comfortable with.
Yeah, so far this season, he has 26 points in 50 games played, 6 goals, 20 assists. I imagine he'll probably get 2 more goals to break his career high in goals. Not that that matters so much for defensemen. So yeah, I mean, he was 50 points. Here's the thing too, is he's a +2. And I mean, I know we don't like the plus minus statistic very much, but for him to have the assignments that he has on every given night and then still be in the plus category, and I know it's a team statistic, but there is still something to be said about that. It's not everything. Far from everything, but there is something to be said about that.
Yeah. Him and Wallman are both pluses, even though they have some of the hardest deployment in the league.
Yeah. And like that, people are going to be like, well, you put Wallman in meeting and Seider in exceeding. Well, Seider
has a bigger role than Wallman, pretty objectively. So
Seider's getting even. You look at those. We've put those puck IQs up, right? And Seider has even tougher deployments and usage than even Wallman. And Wallman's second in the league, but yeah, different roles. So next up,
obviously,
who do we got here next, Scotty?
Alex Lyon.
We got Alex Lyon.
Did you say that out loud because you didn't know who that was, or
because I'm used to Alex Lyon having the locks now?
So I mean, I think this is the shortest conversation. I think it's the easiest one of the entire team. This is very clearly above and beyond, and we can kind of just move on.
Yeah, failing expectations. Agree.
Nice. No, I mean, someone's going to screenshot that and make us look like idiots. That's
right. I mean, he's a top 4, top 3, top 5, no matter how, depending on how you want to filter the statistics, right? Like we were doing top minimum time on the ice, 1,000 minutes, right? And so that showed him top 3, just behind Connor Hellebuyck, who was number 1 overall. I was 9.25 save percentage to his 9.23. He's been, like you said, short conversation. There's no debating. He has been above and beyond. And we talk about the great January that they had. Could not have done it without Alex Lyon in net. He's been phenomenal.
100%. Yeah, he's been, I mean, again, by a lot of stats, one of the best goalies in the entire NHL this year, which I don't think anyone expected. So yeah, he is the most above and beyond, even out of anybody else. There are the other people we put in that tier, certainly, but he even kind of is over on top of anybody else we put up there.
Absolutely. And then next up, staying with goalies, James Reimer. James Reimer, man, I said this one's going to be a tough one because I feel like he might be our first candidate for failing expectations, but I don't know if I want to be that extreme with it. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I'm going to push back on failing and go with below is probably the safer bet. I mean, he has an 8.94 save percentage and a 3.22 goals against average in what is that? 12 games played, 14 appearances, 11 starts. So, yeah, I mean, it's the frustration I had with Reimer early on in the season was not with actually anything to do with Reimer. It was the usage of the 3 goalies, and we were pounding our fists on the table for why do you have 3 goalies if you're just refusing to use Alex Lyon? Now, clearly, the tune has changed pretty dramatically on that, and there's a chance that Reimer just kind of becomes that and doesn't have very many opportunities when now that Husso is presumably on his way back. So I'm not really sure how many games Reimer plans to play the rest of the year, but that's not important. Like in the first half of the year, I don't think he was ever like, oh my goodness, this dude is an absolute liability, but he didn't improve from last year, and last year was a down year for him in San Jose, and his numbers really aren't significantly better than they were last year. So I think the expectation was for Husso to be your 1A, Reimer to be your 1B, and Lyon to be kind of your emergency third, at least in the summer. That was the expectation, right? How quickly we forget, but that was pretty consensus, the expectation. And now we're in a position where Reimer's the guy that we might not have room to play like the entire rest of the year if Husso and Lyon stay healthy. So I think that's pretty clearly below expectations because he has literally gotten demoted down the depth chart. But his numbers aren't, like the worst thing you've ever seen, especially with goaltending down across the league. So I'd push back on failing, but pretty comfortably below.
Okay, I mean, I can go with that. I think our personal, and that's the right thing, right? We want this based on our personal expectations of him. And we knew last year he had a bad year on an otherwise really successful career. Last year's the first year his entire career he had a sub 900 save percentage, and he was playing on a really bad Sharks team. And granted, the Wings defensively in front of him in the first half of the season was pretty abysmal too, but still a better defensive core than what the Sharks were pumping out last year. So we were expecting, despite him being 35 years old, we were expecting him to bounce back a little bit, and we haven't seen that bounce back. He's been fine. He's been serviceable, but the sub 900 save percentage is not what this team needed coming, into a year where they're looking to compete. So I'm okay with below expectations. And again, just to reiterate, anything that we say in this episode, it's all super subjective. It's just based on our thoughts and feelings on the matter. So like you guys, anyone has a disagreement or feel like we're off, or you think we're biased, well, we probably are, right? Like we have biases. So, but this is just for fun, really. Man, I almost want to cheat and keep Lucas Raymond for tomorrow's episode and maybe just skip ahead.
I mean, that'll be a little bit of a longer convo, so I'm kind of fine with that.
We can skip ahead maybe here and do.
Sure.
How about we skip ahead and do Olli Maatta?
Sure.
I see him on this list. I like that. All right. So
he's the only person's face you recognize. So you're like, let's do Olli.
I recognize everybody's face on here. Lucas Raymond, Michael Rasmussen.
Okay.
Jeff Petrie,
we're not turning this into a contest, dude. You don't need to go down the line. There's way too many names. Olli Maatta works for me. This is a weird one where each each month, if you would have asked me, my opinion maybe changed. If you asked me in the first couple of months of the season, I might have a different answer than I do now. I'm pretty okay with exceeding, to be honest.
Wow.
I mean, if we're going based on preseason expectations, we were talking about this dude being the 7th D man.
Yeah, he was in the conversation for sure.
He is now at a point where is he blowing his expectations out of the water? Absolutely not, right? I'm not trying to make it sound like he's anything more than what he is as a player, but for a guy that we were kind of penciling in as, he'll be the consistent, healthy scratch and a consistent 7th D man. He had a really good January. I really liked what I saw out of him there. I think he's been pretty solid, and he's in my eyes, he's been better than kind of what I expected out of him coming into the year. So yeah, again, this is, as we've reiterated a lot, him in a vacuum, not compared to his exceeding expectations is not the same as Moritz Seider's, obviously, but I think for his expectations in a vacuum, he's probably done better than what I thought.
That's interesting because I'm I'm not far from you, but I'm in the meeting expectations gallery just because, like, yes, he was in the conversation for 7th D-man, but a lot of that had to do with, I feel, just an overloading and an abundance of veteran D-men, right? It was always going to be probably a cycle of the 7th D-man, but he really has not cycled out too much, right? He's been consistently bottom pair on, back there. And yeah, recently he's had to step up into a bigger role, but that's not going to stay. As soon as Sherratt's back, he'll be back down on the bottom pair. I think he's kind of exactly been what I think he is exactly what we thought he is on that bottom pair.
Sure.
So we're gonna have to settle our argument.
I don't need to go to war for that. And like I said, the exceeding that I have in mind is a slight exceeding. It's not like like I said, he's not blown it out of the water or anything. So I'm pretty fine with meeting.
Maybe we'll have to do like another category between meeting above and below, where it's like slightly exceeding expectations and slightly below expectations.
Let's just give everybody their own tier. Just completely disregard the purpose of this entire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're all right with it, I'm cool putting it in meeting.
Yeah,
but I mean,
fine.
unless you're like,
no, I'm totally cool with that.
Sky, I don't like arguing, so you could bully me into it if you want.
Same, yeah.
Great. You got two hosts who don't like confrontation. So they're both just gonna roll over. But I mean, that's good for now. We got through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the 23 players. Obviously,
we'll probably get through more tomorrow too, just because we had a little bit of an intro. We had 6 or 7 minutes of intro content there that we won't have tomorrow.
So that's perfect. I like where everything's leaning so far. Let us know in the comments.
There's some really interesting conversations left, man. Obviously, Razor, but I mean, Petrie and Sherratt both, I think, are pretty interesting. Larkin, I think there's, an interesting there. Ghost, I think, might be the most interesting conversation of the whole team.
Yeah, he's one where you kind of want to split it between quarters of the season.
Right. There's, I mean, Kopp, obviously, been way better lately. So yeah, I think there's a lot of pretty interesting conversations left.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Let us know in the comments where you would rank these guys on the tier list between meeting and exceeding and below expectations and so on and so forth. Scotty, do you have any final thoughts?
We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow to continue this conversation. So stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.